Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, my name is Victoria and I am the face behind Joya Creates. This channel is mostly dedicated to resin artwork. However, I'm not going to limit this channel solely to that. It's basically going to be a combination of the work that I do for clients and anything my mind decides it wants to make, whether it be a DIY piece of furniture to figuring out how to use another medium. I wanted to say thank you to anybody who watched my previous video, and if you subscribed or commented or even liked that video, it really shows support and helps me out a lot. If you haven't already watched it, head on over there. I'll put a link in the description above so you can watch the video after this one. And of course, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That way you'll be able to find out when I post new videos. Okay, so for today's video, I am going to be showing you all how you can make your own silicone molds using silicone that you can find at your local hardware store. I'm also going to be showing you guys how to do the actual pour of the resin tray. Here we have today's setup. You're going to want to grab your silicone. You can get this from your local hardware store. Make sure you get something that is low odor and that is 100% silicone. It comes in a clear and a white form. I find that the white one tends to cure better. Next, you're going to need your chalking gun. You'll place your silicone tube in there and that will help push everything out. You're going to need an X-Acto knife or something sharp to cut off the tip of the silicone, like a pair of scissors. Next, you're going to want a permanent marker or something to draw out your design. You're going to want to grab your vinyl gloves or something to protect your hands while working with the silicone and your resin. Next, you're going to need your mask because the silicone does tend to have a strong odor to it. You're going to want to get a plastic sheet. I got this from the dollar store. It's just a table protector. You're also going to want some sort of working surface. Here I'm using a tray just so I can use the sizing for it. One thing I forgot to mention during the initial setup is you're going to need something long and pointy to poke a hole through the foil that's inside of the silicone tube. Once you cut off the tip of the silicone, there is that additional layer inside of there. So here I'm just using a cooking skewer and I'll use this to poke the hole. When you're ready, grab your plastic sheet and your working surface. Here I'm using that tray. You're going to want to cut your plastic sheet to fit perfectly inside of your surface. Once you have your plastic sheet cut out, lay it flat on your working surface. Then grab your permanent marker and then you're going to draw out the design that you want to follow along using your silicone afterwards. Here I'm just doing an irregular shape pattern. I'm kind of going for a natural stone agate type of feel. Next, we're going to grab our silicone and we're going to use our X-Acto knife to cut off the tip. Grab your chalking gun and you're going to place your silicone tube inside of the chalking gun. The next thing you're going to want to do is grab that skewer and poke a hole inside of your silicone. At this point, you probably want to put your gloves and your mask on, just in case anything squirts out. Once you have your gloves and your mask on, grab your silicone and trace the design that you made on the plastic earlier. I wanted my tray to be a little bit deeper, so I did a second layer on top of the first layer that I did. This is just going to cause the tray to be a little deeper. Keep in mind you will need more resin in order to fill this up. Once you're done pumping out your silicone on your design, set it aside to let it cure. I ended up having some leftover silicone, so instead of throwing it away, I grabbed another plastic sheet and I just made some freehand coasters. And there you have it. You're gonna let these cure for at least 30 minutes. I'm honestly gonna let them cure overnight. I've found in the past that if I've worked on it too early, then the resin tends to leak through the sides of the molds. And another thing that you wanna check as well is make sure that you look at the bottom of your mold, the silicone mold, and make sure that you don't see any gaps at the bottom or gaps in between the two layers that you do, just because if there is, your resin is going to leak out and you're going to have a mess when it comes to cleaning up your trays. Alright guys, so it's the next day and I let the silicone molds cure for at least 24 hours and I'll show you guys the outcome. Here they are. If you touch it with your hand, they're completely dry, it's not sticky, and the silicone bounces back into place. Here's our setup for this evening. We have our silicone molds, our gloves, resin, plastic cups, stir sticks, heat gun. Over here we have our colors that we're going to be using for this evening, and I also have some gold leaf. I'm going to be making a marble tray with gold accents. So here I'm going to be using pigment powders. This is a nice gold that I have. Next I have an iridescent white. We have a black pigment powder. I don't know if you guys can see that here. I have a gray and a basic white. On the side here I have my metallic paints that I'll use to do the accenting on the side of the tray. One more thing you're going to want is a larger plastic cup to mix your resin in. So first things first, put your gloves on. You're going to grab your individual plastic cups and you're going to put a drop of your paint pigment into each cup. Once you're done mixing your resin together, you'll be pouring the clear resin into each one of these individual cups to mix around the pigment. I like doing this step first because once your resin is mixed together, you only have a certain amount of time that you get to work with the product. So having everything laid out beforehand makes things a lot easier. Once you're done with that step, you're going to set your paint aside. You're going to grab 2 clear cups. You're going to grab your resin and your hardener, and you're going to pour your hardener into 1 cup, and then you're going to pour your resin into the second cup, making sure that both cups are equal. I'm using Resin Art resin, so their recipe calls for 1:1 ratio. Once you have your resin measured out equally, you're going to take both cups and pour it into the larger plastic cup and stir it around for 3 minutes. You want to make sure that you're scraping all the sides of the cup and the bottom of the cup, continuously stirring for 3 minutes. Once you're finished stirring, you're going to grab your plastic cups that had the paint that you poured in earlier. You're going to take your resin and you're going to pour it into each individual cup, and you're going to stir until the pigment is thoroughly mixed together. Keep in mind, to create the marble pattern, you're going to want to use mostly white for this tray. So concentrate the majority of your resin into the white pigment that you put out. You're also going to want to keep a reserve of the clear resin on the side as well. If you don't know how much resin to mix together for the creation that you're making, head on over to the Artresin website. They have a calculator tool there that can help you calculate how much resin you'll need for the piece that you're making. Once you have your paint mixed together, you're going to take your white color and you're going to start this off as the base of the tray. For the marble tray, you're going to want mostly white, and then you'll add in small pieces of black and gray, and if you want to add gold to it as well, you can go ahead and do that. The method that I like to use making this tray is doing layering. So I'll do a white base, add my black and gray, give it a good mix and blast it with the heat gun, and then do a second layer, grabbing more white, adding more black and a little bit of gray, blasting it with my heat gun, and then moving it around to create the swirls and design. Lastly, I like taking the clear resin, pouring that on top as the final touch. At that point, I will grab the heat gun and heat up the resin until it's more of a runny mixture again. I'll grab the sides of the tray and just move it around until I get my desired look. This step is optional, but I feel it gives the tray a little bit more of a luxe feel. You can take your gold leafing and just create a pattern going across your resin. The last step you're going to want to do is to take your heat gun and thoroughly pop any bubbles that may have formed in your resin. While the resin is being mixed together, these little bubbles get created. By using the heat gun, it helps bring the bubbles to the surface and pop. So this is a very important step. Once you're done creating your design and popping all the bubbles out of your tray, you're going to then cover up your artwork for the evening to cure.
Hello everyone. Alright, so I finished the tray and I covered it up and I'm going to let it cure overnight. I'll come back to it in the morning and see how it is. Double check that nothing has fallen into it, no dust, no hair, anything like that. As for the coasters that I had made, those other silicone molds that you saw me do earlier, I'm not going to do those right now. I don't know. This took out a lot out of me today and I just don't feel like doing the coasters right now. And plus I only have enough room right now to cover up this tray, so I don't want any dust or dirt flying into it. So I'm going to use the cover that I have and let that sit. So I decided to come check on the tray and notice it's doing things. See how there's all that separating detail that's going on? It's one of the things I love about resin. You never know what it's going to turn into. Alright, it's the next day and our tray has been sitting for at least 24 hours. I'm going to go do the demolding now. I wanted to do the demolding outside, however, it is raining. It's a pretty gloomy day. So not sure if I'm going to be able to do that.
Since it's raining, I will be doing the demolding inside. So head on over to your tray and take the lid off. Since it's been 24 hours, your resin should have fully cured at this point, so you can easily handle it. You'll just take off the sides of the silicone, peeling it back slowly, and it should easily pop out. It may take a minute to come out, but it should easily slide out. Also be careful when you're demolding it, because if you are careful enough, you can actually reuse your silicone mold. Ta-da!
Also, don't be worried if your tray has a little bit of flexibility to it still. Even though it says that it takes 24 hours for your resin to cure, I find that your resin is still a little bit flexible for at least 2 days. I say it's fully cured and rock solid around the 3-day mark. When your tray comes out of the silicone mold, it will have some rough edges that you're going to want to either cut off or sand down. Here I usually do some cutting just using a pair of nail scissors or even an X-Acto knife. However, here, as you'll see later, I was having a little bit of trouble trimming down the sides of my tray, so I ended up sanding it. I've decided that doing the X-Acto knife and cutting around the side of the tray isn't doing what I want it to do, so I'm actually going to go outside and sand it. Even though it's raining, I'm going to take that risk because I really want to get this piece finished for a client, so it's literally raining out here. And the reason I'm doing it outside is because you don't want to breathe in the resin dust, basically. So I have my tray here, my sandpaper. If any of you are wondering about my sanding stick, it's actually a paint stick, like one of those ones that you get from Home Depot to mix around your paint. I then grabbed a piece of sandpaper and wrapped it around the paint stick and secured it on each end with a piece of tape. This makes it super easy to maneuver and have a grip on for sanding. If any of you have any questions on how I do the wrapping of the sanding stick, leave me a comment below and I'll put together a quick video to show you. Now for the second last step is adding the gold trimming to the side of your tray. Here I'm going to be using a gold enamel paint. This will give it a really nice luxury feel to it. And now for the final step. Once your paint has fully dried, you can take a sharp object and go around the trims of the tray in order to take off any excess gold paint that may have leaked over the side.
And there you have it, guys, your marble tray.
I think this came out absolutely great, and it's just amazing the amount of variations that you could do for this DIY in order to match the decor in your house. It would look amazing sitting on a coffee table, or you can have it how I have it here, sitting in a room holding your jewelry and your perfumes. This would also be a super cute gift to give to somebody for their birthday or say Mother's Day. It's definitely a really fun DIY and it will take up a little bit of your time. So if you have nothing to do over the weekend, this is definitely a great project to do.
Thanks again for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave me a thumbs up, or if you have any questions or just want to leave a comment on the video, please leave one down below, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you may have. I'll see you guys in the next video.